Hello, Anon. My name is Jeremy Nathaniel Akers, and I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version on why liberating structures are extraordinarily powerful tools to structurally overcome coordination failure. Meeting hell is caused by garden variety stupidity. You show up to a meeting unprepared, you don't know who's in charge, you do what everybody else does, you get what everybody else gets, and your outcomes are a crapshoot. Best case scenario, a coin flip, and that generally sucks. Your solution space is to use a meeting agenda. Meeting agendas introduce the fractal of all of the solution space, which is intention. What topics are you going to treat? The problem is you still might fall into horrible social technology that has a particular type of problem that presentation is representative and exemplifies. Presentations have this dynamic of one person talks, everybody else just listens. The bandwidth of bringing everybody together in one space is quite costly. So if you're going to bring a lot of people together at once in synchronous communication, then it doesn't make sense, or it's very expensive to not have those people be communicating actively with one another. So presentation, one person talks, everybody listens. That gap between the bandwidth and the throughput or actual usage of the brains in the room is the challenge that the Stone Age tools do not solve. Presentation has that. Status update does that, as we take turns boring each other, and one person talking and listening. Managed discussions, probably the best of the worst tools imaginable, where power dynamics come into play as one person directs everybody's attention, puts people on the hot seat, and decides who talks and who and everybody else still listens, that accepts avoidance and has difficulty dealing with simple answers or honest answers. Brainstorms, where without some criteria on how to evaluate the spaghetti we've thrown against the wall, we end up in vastly different interpretations of these things that we observe, and then we usually create some form of war where we argue about who's right and who's wrong. And the WWF style free-for-all. Again, subject to the throughput challenge. One person talks at a time, everybody else is stuck listening, where the survival of the loudest reigns supreme. The person who, because of extroversion, because of their interests, because their opinions, just takes up all the space, and quieter voices, regardless of the fact that they might have great information, they probably have great information. Well, they can get a meeting in after the meeting in order to get their voice heard. So these dynamics suck. So liberating structures offer you 33 cutting-edge tools, social technologies, interaction games, if you will, to arrange time and attention together that gives you way more surface area for interaction, intention, and choice. They do that by, first and foremost, by solving that throughput challenge by including and unleashing everyone. They help us practice deep respect for people and local solutions. They enable us to build trust as we go. They encourage us to learn by failing forward and provide ways for us to do that. And they help us practice self-discovery within groups. They give us methods that enable us to amplify both freedom and responsibility, and they help us to emphasize possibilities, believing before we see. They invite us into creative destruction in order to make space for innovation, and they give us ways of engaging in seriously playful curiosity. and encouraging us to never start without a clear purpose. Now, what are liberating structures? How do they go about doing those things? Liberating structures include instructions for 5 different design elements, and that is how participation is distributed, how groups are formed, a set of steps over time, invitation, the question or prompt at the center of that interaction, and how materials and space are organized. A liberating structure that most exemplifies these 3 design elements is 1, 2, 4, all. Take 1 minute in silent reflection to gather your thoughts around a question or prompt. Take 2 minutes in dialogue to discuss your thinking. Take 4 minutes to paraphrase your partner for another pair as they do the same. And then take 5 minutes to gather together and collect the most salient points of information from all of these different diverse groups. The 4th design element, invitation, you can see, provides a sense of direction to the dialogue. 9 Whys, for example, encourages us in the direction to think about purpose, meaning, and impact. 15% Solutions invites us into a direction that's much more practical around, with just what you have in the kitchen, what can you cook? TRIZ, for example, invites us to think about how we could actively create the worst possible outcomes so we know what we want to avoid. And what, so what, now what helps us separate our thinking from data, factual observations, to inference, significance, or meaning, and then deciding what we want to do on the basis of that information. Each of these invitationally liberating structures focus much more on different directions that the conversation can go. And last but not least, there are some liberating structures that include instructions about how we use materials in space. You're actually looking at one. CriticalUncertainties asks us to identify the factors critical to our context. In this instance, using liberating structures, the most critical thing is your inner state. Or do you feel courageous and confident, or do you feel anxious and nervous? And the most uncertain thing you'll run into could be how the group responds. Are you in a skeptical group, or are you in a receptive group? Hard to tell. If you're in a skeptical group, you might know that you're in a skeptical group because you're in a room full of people in blue suits that have their arms crossed and are slightly scowling, and you might feel super nervous, super jittery, hands are sweaty. And if you're in that environment, you may want to lean into structures like 1, 2, 4, all, 9 Whys, and 15% Solutions. Purpose, practical application, solving the throughput challenge, or the AgreementCertainty matrix. I'm not going to go through the AgreementCertainty matrix, but it's a cool tool, and you should definitely check it out, especially if you're in a skeptical environment and feeling nervous. So each liberating structure, like I said, includes instructions in these 5 design elements. And armed with those liberating structures, you have way more choice. When you think about your agenda items and the outcomes associated with those agenda items, you have a better tool and more appropriate one that you can pick for some different types of topics than for others. And that just gives you more surface area of intention and a higher win rate to successfully say, treated that topic well. A plus 80% win rate from a crapshoot or coin flip feels great and just works better. I don't know what else to say. So, 33 different tools for shared thinking. All you have to do is unlearn what you've learned about meeting together. My name's Jeremy Nathaniel Akers. Thanks for your time, attention, and